team. Welcome to another conversation all about how women win our way. Kathy and I are on this journey. We are committed to just inquiring, being curious, talking to people, having these conversations so that we can discover really what is it that helps women be set up for success, helps us honor who we are, helps us grow and figure out how to become really the person that we want to be. And really what's different about the work that Kathy and I are doing is we want to figure out how women win our way versus the way that maybe Kathy and I come from an old school generation, all about really how we were taught by our male coaches and our really the people that were in our lives. And we want to figure out how to do this from a woman's perspective. And so today we have a pro volleyball athlete with us. She played college ball. You're going to get to hear her story. And her questions today that she's going to share with us are really all about how to be a professional athlete, how to be a successful college athlete, how to really take that struggle into success, how to train with purpose and passion, and how to change and win. So if you're curious about any of those, this is today's conversation. So Kathy, as always, thank you for being on the journey. And Carli, welcome to our conversation today. So share a bit about just you and your story.
Oh, thank you for having me. That was an excellent introduction. And one of the few categories I feel uniquely qualified to speak about, because I've grown up around a particular woman, my mother, as a head coach my entire life. And it led me to play for a female head coach when I was in college. And this experience playing for women and being around female leaders has me very, very excited to speak with you both today. But my career has been one that I would consider. I specialized in volleyball very early on. I started playing when I was 12 because I was copying my older sister who had discovered volleyball in middle school. And my parents are both coaches. My dad coached varsity basketball and my mom coaches college tennis. So they were not necessarily eager to push us into sports, but that was what they knew how to do. So if we were interested in volleyball, great, volleyball all the way. If I was interested in piano, I'm sure it would have worked out, but they would have been on Google much more frequently than they were with the volleyball. But we started, my family, started investing our time in club volleyball between my sister and I when I was around that age in middle school. And pretty shortly after I realized I would play in college, I was growing like a weed and ended up having a pretty whippy arm swing, which was to my benefit. So when I was looking at schools, my mom never mentioned anything about playing for a female. She really let me have my own experience recruiting wise. But I realized that growing up watching my mom coach had really given me a answer to what I wanted out of my college experience. And some of the male run programs, I was speaking with them and I was really enjoying my recruiting process. And there was these key questions in my mind that somehow felt more authentic when I had a female talking to me. And I think for that reason, a lot of college recruiters have their recruiting coordinator as a woman in this sport, because who do you connect to best? And it's usually other females, especially at an impressionable age. So that led me to the University of Florida to play for Mary Wise. And I won 3 SEC championships. My senior year, we went to the NCAA finals and lost to Nebraska, unfortunately, but had just a storybook year that I wouldn't change a thing. I would change a few points of the Nebraska match. I can't be that forgiving, but other than that, I would not change a thing about that year. And that has led me to play professionally, oddly enough, for another female, I don't want to say the only successful, but one of the only well-known successful female coaches, especially in the French league, but in European volleyball. She was my first professional coach. That was a coincidence. There are no females coaching professionally, and that was another really great experience for me. So here I am, and this is my 4th year playing professionally, and I get to speak with you both.
Carli, what the questions that you said you had in your head that you wanted answered, what were they? Give us some examples.
I was curious about what the team does outside of volleyball together and what that looks like from the coaching perspective, because of course all teams are hanging out together and coaches kind of tell me you're going to live with your teammates, you're going to do X, Y, and Z with your friends. But to have someone who invests in bonding and not just sound like they're checking a box when they speak about team bonding and bringing a female sports team together, I found that much more genuine with Mary than at other programs. That was one of my questions. Other questions were along the lines of, I didn't know professional volleyball existed. So, knowing someone invests in who I am as a person while I'm there is crucial because, the reality is we don't have a professional league in the US. Well, now there's some professional leagues being formed, but at the time that was not on my radar at all. And I wanted to know that I would leave and be qualified to do something in the real world and leave a better leader and person. And not that those were, I was 15. I didn't word this as elegantly as I am, as I would probably be able to ask it, hopefully now. But the gray area way of saying, what are your current players doing now? And if you don't know what your current players are doing now, that speaks volumes, because my mom gets 200 Christmas cards every year and is going to weddings and big events left and right. So that was another indicator for me. How invested are you in their lives and not just their 4 years?
Well, so you were talking about really how to be a successful professional athlete. I want to go into your college career. How do you be a professional college athlete? If you're speaking into really the hearts of those college athletes right now, tell us about what you were like as a freshman and how you progressed into becoming the senior and just your journey.
Great. I was a clueless freshman. I had never touched a weight. I had never practiced more than 3 times a week because my club volleyball experience was pretty chill, I would say. So I went into the experience and was even asking a senior, why do we have to wear the same shirt every day? Why do things like, why do things like that matter? And it was kind of interesting now because I can't imagine, showing up to my professional practice wearing whatever shirt I wanted. But that was kind of where my head was at as far as understanding how much of a commitment college volleyball was. And I was close to being redshirted, I think, because of how far behind I was physically. But I ended up having a really great summer in the fitness workout area of volleyball, which led me then to believe that I could be a contributing member of the team my freshman year. And I was able to do that, but it was a roller coaster ride for sure, because I had to learn how to eat better. I was so thin my freshman year. I think I was 125 pounds soaking wet. So I had to learn to eat more than I was eating before. I had to learn to be okay with that, because that's a scary thing to tell anyone, but especially women. Oh, we would like to put 30 pounds of muscle on you by the time you're a senior. 30, I'm looking at the 30-pound, weight in the weight room, and I can't even hold it. I'm like, that's going to go on me. So that was a learning experience. But most of all, my freshman year, I was spinning around and really lucky that I had good seniors on the team, because if I was expected to win games for the team my freshman year, that would have been a huge, huge problem. I was expected to play 3 rotations and hit the ball and just be athletic, basically, because there was, nothing else really going on in my mind, volleyball IQ wise, and to let the seniors carry the stress of the situation and to talk to the team and to be the glue that held everything together and to instill confidence in young players, because, that could make or break you being clueless. And fortunately, sometimes it is to someone's benefit.
Oh, then you grow into this situation, at Florida, did you ever think, I mean, one of the things, reasons we're on this journey, Carli, is because we see, even since you've been in college, that the situation for coaches has changed and is changing all the time, with the options for players just to be unhappy and leave.
Mhm.
I mean, with volleyball, it's kind of always been there because you never had to sit a year or whatever. But now, transferring is almost a cottage industry. And so why did you stay? And did you ever, when you called home in that first year, what was that like?
I had like most freshmen, the emotional roller coaster of when I play good, I'm the happiest person in the world. And when I play bad, I wonder why I'm halfway across the country, why, why I'm sharing a dorm room, and why my classes aren't as exciting as I thought they would be, and just riding this wave of emotions. And it's true that transferring in the back of your mind is a really easy option because the grass can always be greener. And in some situations, I think people make the right decision for themselves to leave. And when I would have a hard day, calling my mom was the most unsatisfying situation ever, because my mom is, yeah, you're a freshman. Every freshman goes through this. You're going to not even call me in 3 months. You're going to be happy and you're going to be doing whatever. And she's been coaching freshmen for 30 years and understands that you're going to have them all crying in your office week one. But I think what truly helped me through that experience was having a coaching staff that had a very, their door was open, and they instilled a lot of confidence in the process of being a Florida volleyball player, and that it wasn't that I had to become who the starting best outside was that year. It wasn't my goal to be her next year. It was a better version of myself. And whatever that looked like, they said, we believe your best version of yourself can be on the court, 6 rotations your sophomore year. And that conversation isn't the same for everybody. I think Mary does a really good job of that, because her idea, I mean, I don't want to put words in her mouth, we've spoken about this. Her idea is that she wants you to have the best experience for you as possible. If that means getting the exact degree you wanted, that's excellent. And if that means being a person who rotates in practice and doesn't get a lot of playing time but loves being on the team, then there's a leadership role for you, and there's a way that can be done where you're not viewed as less important than anyone who's on the court all the time. So I think that those conversations, because it was important to me to play, and to know that I was working in a direction that they were happy with, those conversations really helped me and motivated me and kept me feeling like the failure I was having in the gym was worth it, because they were instilling that this failure is completely necessary to get to that point. Otherwise, you're going to plateau and you won't find yourself on the court.
So that leads us to our question about how struggle really creates success. And it's very hard to struggle. I mean, none of us want to feel the struggle. We don't want to feel the pain of it, certainly from an ego perspective and just an identity perspective. And we're already vulnerable. When you talk about being a freshman, everything about you is somewhat, just figuring everything out. So you're not feeling really strong about who you are anyway. And then you come into a coaching staff that believes in you and is for you and says, I need you to fail actually to be able to move into success, or I need you to be able to accept the struggle. How did you do it? And what would be your words of wisdom for anybody going through that right now?
I wish I could say that I did it very gracefully and without any pushback, but if Dave Booz, the assistant coach of Florida, listens to this, he would have to call you and tell you to delete the podcast. I struggled at first to fail because it's it feels like when you're a freshman, you're building a resume and nobody knows you and nobody cares that you won Gatorade Player of the Year in whatever state you're from. You are what mistakes you made that day, especially to the people you play with. And that even if someone tells you that's not true, it's how you feel. And that's, the bottom line. If you're a senior and you make some mistakes and you played 6 rotations and were an All-American last year, nobody's going to say anything. But, it's hard when you're trying to just do the right thing to get this feeling of trust from your teammates. And then you get into spring practice and the coach says, it doesn't matter if the ball goes to target, just do this technique. And it's so hard to take that mindset out of your head. So one thing that helped me that they did at Florida is if I was doing a passing practice and they said, keep your shoulders down and it doesn't matter where the ball goes, just keep your shoulders down and hold your platform after the pass, something I've struggled with for my entire career. And by the way, we're going to blow the whistle and you'll lose a point every time you don't do that. So now the result is, now in order to win the drill, because we all want to be competitive and love playing, I have to now do something technically. It has no impact on the result of the ball. And that really helped me to get that to get the result of the ball out of my head. And instead, the result of my body, the result of technique, the result of feeling that you did something the right way. And I felt I rewired my brain during that time to feel a sense of reward when something felt right or felt good. And I'm a words of affirmation love language, which we took that test at Florida and shared it with everyone on the team. So they also knew that if the ball doesn't go to target, the number one thing I'm thinking is there's silence, they're critiquing me, they're this, and just to hear a coach say, that's what we needed right there from you. And it was so, so impactful for me to have a coach who understood me on a personal level like that.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, Carli, so that was your freshman year. And by your senior year, you're one of the toughest players in the SEC, if not in the country. And so now how are you? You've talked a little bit through that transformation and skill, and I don't know if you got the 30 pounds or not, but confidence and those kinds of things. What did you do as a leader then?
When I was a senior and leading up to that point, I was really lucky to have a senior class of women who were incredible leaders and incredible volleyball players. And it didn't necessarily feel like any one of us had to be the main person with the megaphone in a locker room. And my style of leadership was often connection based. I've always felt that my favorite place to be is a locker room before practice, laughing or, stretching after practice with, talking about how it went that day emotionally for anyone in class or with their families. And I'm really interested in my teammates as people. I find it to be my favorite part of being on a team is just a group of supporting women. And I think at one point they used the old saying like good cop, bad cop, and I was the good cop. Usually I was not policing volleyball too often. I'm a very intense competitor, but oftentimes I think the trust that I have built off the court with people has allowed my competitive energy to settle into a very trusting relationship and to feel really connected to my teammates, which has led to success over time. I think it made sense my career trended upwards because 4 years to invest in people and a program and a coaching staff is a long time, and you don't get that in professional volleyball really, but it made sense to me that by my senior year I felt like I was in such a rhythm emotionally, mentally, and spiritually with the team, physically of course too, because I was physically healthy.
And so how did you really learn to train with purpose and passion when you were managing that desire to be liked from a relationship perspective, which from a female perspective, we like that. We want to feel liked, we want to feel valued, and yet you do have this inner competitiveness in you. How did you balance that?
I think at first I balanced it in a way where I deflected and I wasn't the person on the team who would tell anyone what to do on the volleyball court. But as I realized, as I got older and people were looking to me, especially in the outside hitter position where I was the only senior, people were looking to me for something. And I think it made me realize that the same way that with your family, that when you love each other and you're connected to each other, that you know that this person wants what's best for you. And it's always easy to hear from someone who wants what's best for you. I think that it led to a really easy transition into speaking about volleyball. And our senior year in the summer, when it was just the seniors running practice, we would say, if we don't, do a certain drill at the highest level, that as if the coaches were standing on the side of the court, afterwards, we're all just going to get on the line and run. And we want to win this year. And that was not something that it ever felt like you were attacking someone or saying you didn't do this at the highest level. It was, we want to be the best. We want to win a national championship. We're doing this together, and everyone wants what's best. I think that environment really led it to be an easier conversation amongst teammates.
Carli, when you watched your mother, and you sound as if you did, your mother coaches both men's and women's. Did you learn things from her about the differences in coaching men and coaching women?
Yes. And my mom coached men and women's tennis a few years before she just was the women's tennis coach at Wayne State. And my dad coached men's basketball. I was at their practices all the time. And the difference between men and women and their coaching styles, to me, always appeared that men felt better depending on how they played. Like if they wanted to feel good, it felt like it was a result of the play that had just happened. And women, I felt, had always played their best in an environment where they already had felt good. If that makes any sense, that they need to feel good to play good. And I felt that men, it was that they were waiting to show emotion until after they knew how they played. And maybe this is not I'm not a psychologist, of course. I have no idea if that's worded correctly, but it had always seemed that way to me. And my mom had really played to that with coaching, because I know that she's, during her preseason, running around Detroit, she coaches at Wayne State University, putting together a scavenger hunt citywide for her team. And my dad was a very committed basketball coach. I never remember scavenger hunts being placed around the town or something. And she's someone who I have no idea if she did that. I would assume she also did that for the men's team. And I would be interested to talk to her about how that went, because she has a style of coaching. It's hard to change whether you're doing men or women. It's just easier for her to try and do that kind of stuff for players.
Well, so as you just think about your journey from college to pros, what have you learned that you've taken from your college experience into being a professional athlete? Because when you transition into being a pro, you don't have the same staff and the same coaches and the same somewhat caring relationship. You've now really entered into you taking full responsibility for everything that needs to be done. You're in another country, so you're much further away from family. How have you become that successful professional athlete, and what are your words of wisdom?
I think I've become relatively successful in this new realm based on my ability to, when I'm in the gym, be incredibly focused, and trying to, when I leave the gym, almost feel like when I'm shutting the door, I'm turning that mode of myself off in a way that I couldn't do in college, but the season is so incredibly long in professional volleyball. And if one practice weighs on you, the year feels unbearable when you have a month or so where you're not playing good, or it's cold and you're homesick and your family's not here. But I think that the mistake that can be made with that, and the mistake I have made, is that when you turn your mind off from volleyball, it doesn't mean that you can turn off the side of you that has to be preparing to physically be in a very demanding job. So turning your mind off doesn't mean I can come home and say, oh, for dinner, I would like to eat this can of Pringles today, and, drink a bottle of wine, which you can, would be horrible. So you have to turn off that mode of that you're going to critique every action you made in practice that day, but keep the side of you on that says, oh, I did have a nutritionist in college and she did teach me these very, very valuable things. And yeah, the night that I need the most sleep is, most often the night that everyone wants to go out drinking, which is the day after you play a game. And alcohol is so incredibly bad for your recovery and your sleep. And it's true, a hangover gets worse as you get older, and it affects you in a really strong way. So, I mean, everyone's listening to this who's in college. I know that college athletes drink. Alcohol is so detrimental to your physical and overall well-being at times. So just knowing when you can truly turn off that thought process where you have to play and train and be ready for the next thing.
And what do you do with your time?
I really enjoy writing. I've always been a big reader. I've been writing a book of sorts for like 2 years now. I keep saying, now I'm finally my I would say book coach or coach in this way has told me I have to start saying I'm writing a book, or else it's going to keep confusing people when I'm like, I'm writing a lot, but I don't want to say I'm writing a book, because then in a year from now, you're going to ask me what my book is doing. So I've been writing a book. I'm now finally saying it. And I enjoy walking. I really enjoy reading. I have visitors come pretty frequently, and so that's always fun to entertain people. But I like cooking too. That's what I'm trying to become more invested in. I have a 2-burner stove, so the options are limited, but 2 burners I can, for one person, is fine.
Well, tell us about how do you change and win in life. So we've been talking about your career in volleyball, and you've just demonstrated beautifully just the power of how women win is about really developing yourself, knowing yourself, developing yourself, taking responsibility for figuring out your winning strategies. And I want to hear what your book's about. We want to support you in that. Love that you're really, going into additional things, but just, take us through the journey as a young woman and now as a young professional athlete. How have you changed yourself to really win based on how you define it?
Winning to me is can be so short-term or long-term. And I think it's really healthy and good to have goals in both categories of your life, because if it feels like you're always chasing your 5-year plan, then in my experience, I go to sleep anxious at night knowing, did I do enough today? Is this where I want to be right now? And I think those questions, when we're in such a fast-paced capitalistic society where you see people working 12 hours a day and barely sleeping at night, and with the impact that social media has, it can really feel like you're losing all the time. And so I've tried to readjust my definition of winning, and to consistently put forth goals that, one, are attainable, because goals, they should be attainable. You should have some far-reaching ones that would feel good, but a lot of my goals are how can I be most connected to my loved ones, my friends, and my family? So I feel like I'm winning when I write a letter home, or when I finish my Christmas cards in early November, and when I find like the perfect gift at a thrift store in France to send home to someone. That feels like a huge emotional win for me. And when I think about on the court, my goals, they can't be to be the MVP of the French league every year, because all year it feels like you're losing if you don't score 30 points a game. So my goals are small, and every week still have the goal of holding my platform and keeping my shoulders down, of course, because that's never going to change for me, despite the long spring season of my sophomore year. But my goals are small for the week, and getting a little bit better at each thing in volleyball, and writing a little bit when I get home, but not saying finish a chapter every day of this book. Otherwise, like I said, it constantly feels like you're chasing this version of yourself that's really only exists in your mind. That like superwoman who doesn't sleep and who eats green things at every meal. And I'm like, okay, I've seen her like one day of my life. Why do I keep comparing myself to her? I don't even know her.
You don't even recognize her, right?
Yeah. So I think that my definition of winning is very goal oriented and very, it's not as result driven as it used to be when I was younger. And I felt a lot more satisfaction in the wins since I have readjusted my thoughts on that.
And what tell us about the book that you're writing?
So I write essay style humor, and it's a very, if you've ever read David Sedaris, it's a similar to his writing style. I started writing emails to my friends. Actually, it started with the Florida coaching staff, because when I went away for the 2 weeks or month in summer home, they wanted to have a weekly email about what you were doing and basically what your goals are and what you've achieved over summer. And they had said at the time that they looked forward to reading my emails every week because they were always very, very long. I didn't know we were supposed to be writing short emails. Mine were 6 pages. I love writing. So mine were 6 pages, like detailed on how I was coaching a volleyball team and we came back from 19 to 4 and we only had 5 girls because no one showed up because they found out they had a substitute coach. And so after that, I came back and Mary said, you have to write a book. And these are the highlights of our year. And I didn't take them seriously at the time, but I continued writing monthly emails to all my close friends, which are mostly humor based and kind of in a essay style memoir format. So I've been kind of compiling those, editing for clarity and things like that, and going to hopefully publish them.
Wow, that's amazing. And what books are you reading right now?
Right now, I just finished Whereabouts. I can't pronounce the author's name, but it won some sort of prize. And I saw the little, there's very limited options in a bookstore for English. And I saw the little Pulitzer Prize thingy and I said, this has to be good. And it was indeed very, very good. I'm reading To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf, and it is also excellent now. And I have a few more books I need to start while I'm here. So I'm pretty excited to keep on with those.
Kathy, any thoughts? Any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I just really appreciate you sharing, Carli. Just really authentic thoughts, and will be very helpful to us as we have these conversations and try and put together our own sort of book. So we're
very excited to read.
We're in that same process right now of trying to decide what do we do with all this, and could it become a book? And certainly some of the things that you've shared with us are insightful and helpful.
It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you both. Yeah. I've enjoyed thinking about these things because they're not spoken about enough, and it's really important. So thank you for the work you're doing. And I can think of a list of about 200 women who will be on the, ready to pre-order the book.
Well, Carli, the best gift you've given us today is you, of course, and that is really the gift of just being you, figuring out you, being authentic to you, and connecting with us, being in relationship with us, taking, the time to say yes to our journey, being a part of it. And so, thank you for that. We'd love for you to pass on what we're doing to anybody and everybody that that has an interest in this. We love to have them on the podcast, or we have a survey set up. So team, anybody listening that wants to really answer these questions, we have 10 questions that you get to choose from. You don't have to answer all 10. You saw that Carli picked a few that she really liked. That's what we want to hear from, is really what questions resonate with you and really speak to your story. And so you can go to howwomenwin.com, go to our survey, fill it out. So that's the way you can be on our team and contribute, or you can have a conversation with us. So Carli, pass on the information. We're going to be sharing your podcast. Really appreciate you. And is there anything that you want to share with us from a perspective of how women win our way?
I would say that when women are properly supported and encouraged to follow their passions and to not just fit into a mold, but become the best version of who they want to be, who they are, and actively seek out that form of winning, it's just an incredible, incredible thing to witness, and something that I feel like is magical almost. I think women have something inside of them that when that fire is lit, it just can't help but be excellent. So that's my final thought, I would say.
That is beautiful. So team, it's up to you. Go out and figure out really what gets you really excited, what makes you commit to doing the work and showing up and really creating those short-term wins. Carli, you were great about just sharing that competitive spirit along with balancing just that power of relationships and what really matters. So Kathy, as always, thank you so much for the gift of being on this journey. Carli, you have been a gift to us. Thank you. And team, it's up to you. Go out and figure out how you win as in your life, personally, professionally, and philanthropically. Just how do women win? Thank you.